Hi there. This is a Q&A session that attempts to answer some of the questions coming in from the Intuition online course, the Intuition One free online course. So I have a couple questions from that are still from the Rose, the Trumpet, and the Hot Day. And also, I just want to say you're welcome to everybody who sent dozens, maybe even, I don't know, too many to count. Thank yous, thank yous, and thank yous, and more thank yous. Yes, you're welcome. My pleasure. 8398 says, thank you. I have a question about our diet. I have not had my ancestry done, but my brother has, and he said Northern Europe and the British Isles is our background. Years ago, I also read the book, Eat for Your Blood Type, and as an O, the book refers to us as being hunters and gatherers. And I have always been drawn to more animal protein and a Mediterranean diet. Are you familiar with the Eat for Your Blood Type literature? Yes, I am. And yes, I have tried the diet for myself. And it was amazing. Okay. It was vegetables and meat. And I stayed on it for quite a long time, thinking I would crash, and I didn't. I felt so good. So good. So I don't think that that's a bad guide rule of thumb to use for trying to decide what should I eat, that kind of thing. So keep going, Patricia. Next, we have, I'm not sure what this name is, but we're going to call it Julie 9625. And she says, thank you for sharing your wisdom. My answers in the Rose, Trumpet, and Hot Day were the blue jay, the ant, and the lion. According to meanings on the internet, it looks like a good combination to creating a new earth. If only the people around me would have the same outlook. Yeah. I'm just going to comment that the blue jay, the lesson, the message there is the proper use of power. Okay? Use your power wisely and well. Blue jays are known as thieves and robbers and bullies. So you don't want to be that. Okay? The ant is very industrious. And the message there is become the architect of your own reality. That's, build your own reality. Take it on, start, do the work, etc. And then the lion is, I think, the biggest of the big cats. And the message there is use your feminine consciousness. The lion, whether male or female, is about consciousness, and especially female consciousness. Use it. Okay? So, yeah, that's a very good combination to build a new earth. Next, we have Keely Green, 6455. And Keely, I'm not sure if it's Keely or Kelly, has a question about seeing. And says, is it both literally physical or in your mind's eye that you see, or both? I had a friend who developed all the senses equally. That's good. She could see spirits and folks that have passed on. When I talk about seeing, I'm not talking about having somebody or something materialize right in front of you in the physical realm. It's not a physical form in the physical realm. We all have physical vision. Not everybody has what I'm going to call clairvoyant vision or visionary capabilities, or they haven't necessarily developed the image capacity of their imagination. So seeing is both. You can see stuff happening in the real world. You can watch that and you can draw meaning from that. But when you are out of the body, you're not using your physical eyes and you're having experiences out of the body. When you're having a clairvoyant moment, you're seeing on the screen in the back of your mind. I often joke about having 8 screens going. I have an 8-track mind going all the time. So that's another kind of seeing. That's when, let's say that those screens can see, hear, feel, smell, taste, touch, etc. Somebody's telling you something, and in the back of your mind, you are seeing something else that they are hinting at, or they are telling you something, and you're seeing that in your mind's eye. That is the most powerful kind of seeing. Okay. And then she goes on and she says, by the way, I didn't agree with sending souls to the light. And she also mentions that her friend who could see folks who were on the other side would be able to tell by their clothing what era they came out of. And yes, that is a very good clue. The cars, the technology, the building structures, the location often will have a clue based on the building, the structure of the building. The clothing, very important, the tools, all of those are clues as to what time frame we're talking about. So that's very good. I just want to emphasize, use that. Okay. And then, by the way, I didn't agree with sending souls to the light. Something to me did not feel right about that. Her friend used to send souls to the light. I would say this. If you go into the light, you stand a chance of dissolving back into just becoming light. And that light, I'm going to say, from personal experience, lots of personal experience, that light is so attractive. It is so magnetic. It is so powerful. It is so warm, so loving. Oh my gosh. However, when you leave here and you step out of the body and you run into that light, you can stop and ask that light all sorts of questions. So I advise people, don't go into the light. Stop and have a conversation with it. You can ask questions that will be, that light can answer any question that you can come up with. Doesn't matter what it is or how big it is. Okay. So, yeah, you can go on. Usually when you leave here, family is going to meet you and say, come with us. We will take you to the way station or one of the way stations. There's different ones, different, and they're typically going to be for people who speak the same language or come from the same culture or similar culture. Okay. So, yeah, stop and talk to that light. If you ask it to bring you back fully healed, that has been known to happen, even though you were fully dead. And I'm not talking about near-death experiences. I'm talking about real death. And then coming back to life. Okay. Next, we have from G. Freemanzel, G. Freeman, Z-A-L, who says, I finally remembered a dream. Congratulations. And the dream was a porcupine was chasing a bunny. Okay, it's pretty simple. So the porcupine is calling you to wonder and awe. It's telling you, get back into that childlike wonder of the amazing place that you live. And the bunny symbolizes fertility and keeping life going. And so just off the top of my head, I'm going to say that the porcupine is telling you, get ready to be amazed at the fact that life keeps going here, in spite of a lot of difficulties. Okay? All right, let's see what else we got. Okay, that's the end of the questions for Rose Trumpet in the Hot Day. Now I have a few questions from part 3, the 4 enemies. And the first one is from somebody named Vic, who says, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay. As soon as I met you, I was like, oh, cool. There's somebody we can talk to. So thank you. Thank you so much for your class. Yeah, I know that a lot of people have written to say, wow, you respond. Yeah, I do. What's the point of a one-way conversation? I mean, that just carries on the same old thing that we've had for the last 70, 80 years. You watch TV, there's no way to communicate with those people. I don't think that that's what we want. So anyway, Vic goes on to say, I've been working with children and parents for most of my life, and I would say that the parents had no idea of what they were talking about, what they were trying to teach. They had no idea of how to be a good parent. I agree. We need to have childhood development classes taught to everybody who's even thinking about having children. And I think we need a whole revolution or a whole revision of the childhood development theories that we do have. I think it should be much more in alignment with what we actually see going on. So thank you for that, Vic. Again, some appreciation and thank you. Yes, so appreciate that. And then Ann O 6476 says, a happy Thanksgiving. And then she says, that's not actually true about Eskimo DNA. I took a wonderfully integrated and well-researched course on whole plant food-based nutrition, and we looked at several cultures and their diets, along with samples of their organ health, both in the living and the ones that had recently passed on. Eskimos were the most unhealthy, some of the most unhealthy in terms of heart issues, shortened lifespans, and other major chronic problems. While the Okinawans in Japan, who eat mainly sweet potatoes, were found to be some of the longest living and healthiest people on the planet. Yes, I think for this answer, you have used more standardized education than intuition, but that's okay. We're all still learning, growing, and isn't it beautiful? So let me say that the information that I studied in medical school, that didn't come from my intuition. There are photos and documented examples of Eskimos who stuck with their diet, did not get caught up in the Western white man diet. And I would agree with you that those who have gotten caught up in the Western white man diet, which is white flour, white sugar, jams, jellies, canned foods, canned fruits, canned anything, boxed anything, Eskimos are now some of the most unhealthy. But I wasn't talking about the difference between healthy and unhealthy in the sense that that you're presenting here. I was talking about, does that group have the enzymes to digest? Does any group have the enzymes in their system to digest what they are being given? The photos of the old Eskimos, the women, the babies, they are astoundingly beautiful. They are healthy. Oh my gosh. So we're not talking about the diet of the last 50 or 70 years. We're talking about the diets that were researched about 100 years ago, before the Western white man's diet was everywhere around the planet. Okay. I love the fact that my sister lived in Okinawa for quite a while, and she had the same observation. These are some of the healthiest, most vibrant, most amazing people I've ever known. And then she would come back to the US and go, oh my God, what is going on here? Yeah, we were busy falling apart. So you're quite right. Eskimos today are quite unhealthy, but 100 years ago, when they were sticking to their original diet, they were extremely healthy. Okay, and I don't use intuition for everything. I mean, I use my intuition when it becomes a natural thing, when I need it. So, yeah, there's education out there that is really quite reasonable. So I do listen to that. If something I take in starts to change, I will say, I used to think this, or I used to believe that, but things change. I'm not the least bit shy about saying, oops, that was a mistake. I changed. I think this. I think this is more accurate. I think this is more useful. So anyway, I agree. We're all still growing and learning, and it is wonderful. Next, we have Laugh Within 420 just makes this comment. PK, the potential for consciousness here is stunning. Yeah, that's really what the course is about. And this is only the beginner course. This is just so that you have a taste of how the body is built and how it operates. And we go quite a bit deeper as we go to the next two big interviews. Okay, next three big interviews or lectures, not interviews. So yeah, potential is stunning. And then we have Darren. And Darren says, let's see, what is your opinion on meeting the same people almost like it's a custom-made video game? I think I might have answered this the last time we did. I'm not sure. I'll answer it just again, just in case. Yeah, we often see the world as a game. We often go into the future at night when we're dreaming to practice dealing with something. And then when we get to that feeling, when we get to that moment in time, we have deja vu. Maybe that was you, Darren, who was asking about deja vu in one of the other Q&As. But yeah, the same people, it is amazing. Okay, and then he goes on and says, I did the exercise in part 1 and I got the number 6. That's good. That's a signal that you have developed yourself quite a bit. Very good. And then the insect was a mosquito, and he goes, what? And the animal was a bear. The mosquito symbolizes the power of being insignificant, practicing being in the background, learning the power of being absolutely still. You know, there's a tremendous amount of power in the insignificant. Okay. And then the bear is considered to be the great healer of the forest. The bear will sometimes leave herbs or food at the nest of an animal that's been injured because that animal is not able to go out and hunt. So, but the message from the bear is go within and bring out your potential. So go for it. Okay. I love your message. The message from the future self in the water was, I love you. That's good. So, okay. Next we have a message or comment and question from the Light Rising, who says, through my life, I've had unintended inner visions, basically showing me the future about someone, which came true, even if I never mentioned it. I even saw someone as a plain skeleton and then found out later they were most probably sexually abused. So, and then it says, I can't say if the earlier visions were seen or perceived telepathically as a package of info. How do you discern the difference? There is no difference. Whether you perceive it in your mind's eye or you see it in your mind's eye, or you have this momentary flash of a vision, they're all the same. They're all the same. They're all gifts from consciousness, something for you to pay attention to. And I just want to make a comment. When you see a skeleton, when you see somebody in the form of a skeleton and you recognize that person and you see that they're a skeleton, that usually tells you that the deep interior of that individual was either harmed or there was a failure to nurture, or there was something that destroyed their inner self. And that's something to be aware of. When that kind of message comes to you, that typically is going to hint that you have something that would help them. As long as you're not too blatant about it and you're not trying to shove it down their throat, if they're asking questions, answer them truthfully, honestly, and completely. Okay? And you may be one of many who will help them. Don't envision yourself as being the savior of that person, or you're likely to become obnoxious. Not that I think you will, it's, but you just want to be very sensitive to that. Don't be trying to give people help or information if they're not asking for it. Okay. Next, next is just a comment. This is by Nomadic Hope 1211, who says, my number was 23. So I did just what they do in numerology and added them together. I came out with 5. Very good. Very good. I love that kind of, this is what I'm going to do with this number. Okay. Taking charge of your life. Good job. Okay. And lastly, these are all questions from part 4, the 7 intelligences. So Super Kai 5 says, what are some ways to create the silence in your mind when there's so much noise coming in? That's a really important question. I found, I'll give you a personal answer. I could not create silence until I detached from everything. I had to stop trying to make happen what I thought should happen. I had to stop going after what I wanted and, and kept bumping my head up against because it wasn't happening. That's a sign that you're going in the wrong direction. So at some point, if you want silence, you have to stop caring about everything. And that doesn't mean you become callous. It doesn't mean that you become cruel or mean or that you just don't give a crap about anything. No, that means letting go. You don't care what the outcome is. You're going to deal with it the best way you can, no matter what that outcome is. but you don't care what that outcome is. Okay? That leads to a place of being able to be silent. Okay? Detach. All of the gurus talk about detachment, and they do so for a good reason. When you're fully silent inside, that's when you hear all the messages. You get the telepathic communications. You have the clairvoyant visions. You have the clairaudient messages. You can't have those things when you've got all this stuff happening and you're arguing with yourself and you're replaying, every scenario from 20 years ago right up through today. It's not going to happen. So let go. Good question, Super Kai. Next we have, let's see, Jerry Dechant. I just want to say, I agree. It's a yes universe. The universe is going to say yes to whatever you say. And if you say, I can't, the universe is going to say, yep, you can. So you're right. And then we have Jen, who says, wonderful and informative episode. And I have a question. Can you expand on the, quote, results of damage by describing nature versus nurture? Wonderful question, Jen. Let me say this in a nutshell. Given time and love and support, and treating people as if they're perfectly healthy or perfectly normal, the body will often heal. And a whole lot can be accomplished with just that. Okay. So I want to share a little story. This is a story about Michelle O'Donnell. She is a former nurse. I don't know if she's still going around doing conferences and things like that, but she was one of the people who came here to the learning center here on the farm back in the day when we were doing a lot of that. Okay. And she wrote a book, and the title of the book was Of Monkeys and Dragons. And I think it's still available on Amazon. And in that story, she talks about having been a young woman, had a daughter, I think it was one daughter, and a husband. And she was, I don't know if she was a nurse or she was studying to be a nurse or whatever, but she has a second daughter. And the daughter is diagnosed with something pretty devastating. I spent too long since I read the book, but something, the daughter couldn't really walk, couldn't talk, couldn't do a lot of things. As soon as Michelle gave birth to that baby, her husband took off. I don't want any part of this. And so she was left alone. And in this sort of I'm going to call it a reaction that a lot of people would understand, she just took her daughter and went home and treated that daughter like there was nothing wrong with her. Carried her on her hip. I think she was 3 or 4 years old. She was still carrying that child on her hip, hand feeding her little tidbits one day and talking to her, and et cetera, et cetera. And you have to read the book to get the drama of the whole thing, because it was pretty amazing. One day she's got this little girl, the little girl's name was Laura, on her hip, and she's about to put something in the daughter's mouth. And the daughter, all of a sudden, for the first time, says, I think I'm old enough to feed myself now, Mother. A full sentence, very sophisticated linguistics, takes whatever the tidbit was, puts it in her mouth. And at the time that Michelle came here and was giving this talk, I think Laura was a lawyer in Washington, D.C., and she was maybe close to 30, something like that. That, along the way, Michelle discovered she had some healing powers, and she had this dream. And it was a dream in which she was walking along the mountain tops of the mountains, and the whole pathway was just lined with these vicious monkeys and dragons breathing fire and screeching and carrying on. And every time she looked away from the monkeys and the dragons, they all froze, and she walked without a problem. If she stopped and looked at them, they all came to life, and it became very loud, very frightening, very noisy. And she realized that as we go through life, we should not be putting our full attention or keeping our full attention on the monkeys and the dragons. We just need to walk our path. Let them do what they do. Be aware, but don't engage. And I just love that message. And Michelle went on to heal a lot of people. So that is the difference, a stark difference between nature, born with some kind of problem, and nurture, which says, maybe even Michelle was saying in the beginning, I can't deal with this, so I'm not going to, and I'm just going to treat her like she's a normal kid. That was the absolute secret, treating her like a normal kid. When we have all of these groups that form to commiserate and deal with, oh, here's a problem and here's that, and this kid doesn't do this and can't do that, and special diet and all that stuff, we solidify the condition of that child. So just be aware that I think nurture is incredibly powerful. Nature it's pretty daunting at first, but I think we have not just the ability, but the responsibility to figure out how do we counter that? How do we nurture that person into full health, full potential? So I'll let it go with that. Okay. Next, we have a question. I answered this today or mentioned it from Doris today when we were on JC and Janine's program. I grew up in a house where speaking to each other really didn't happen much. I have a hard time speaking and even knowing how to say some words. Spelling words are the hardest thing for me. I tried to get help with this even as an adult, and the teacher told me that I don't hear the letters the same as others. So remembering is the best I can do. Listening to this, the the 7 intelligences, helped me to understand why this happened to me. But I guess at 60 years of age, now it's the best it will ever get for me, even though I keep trying to learn more. By gosh, Doris, learn in your own way. Yes, if you miss that period of time when Brokaw's area is absolutely a critical time to be programmed, to be stimulated, the other parts of the brain will take over, and you will have a pretty juicy linguistic view coming from other parts of the brain that are going to do it their way. If a part of the brain is absolutely destroyed, the brain is so plastic, it will take over. Another part will take over. It will do things differently. That's okay. Let the brain do what it does. Okay? Yeah. And good for you for trying to learn more. Okay. So Winslow School of Dance says, thanks so much. This information about the 7 intelligences, this should be taught to children. I agree. I so agree. Teens, children are not stupid. They know. And if we are presenting all of these beautiful options for developing this, that, or whatever intelligence, and we stop trying to shove somebody down a path that we think they will go because they get paid the most money when they get to be an adult, that is a terrible disservice to the public, to children. We should not be doing that. Oh, yeah. So I agree. Thank you. Thank you. She says, love Mary. He gets Mary from Winslow School of Dance. Okay, next we have Darren. And I think, Darren, you must be a regular here already. That name is familiar. Let's see. He says, thank you for this amazing info, Penny. I recognized what I do have and what I could develop more. Bingo. That's what it's about. Good for you. I surely hope that the brain can compensate and create new pathways. Yes. Let me repeat. The brain is incredibly plastic. And if one part goes down, another part's going to take over. So, and then he goes on, he says, I'm in my 40s and after more than 10 years now, wait a second, I've missed something. Oh, I started learning to dance in my 40s. And after more than 10 years now, I have very good body awareness, balance, and flow. Yes, I danced my whole life. I gave up my tap shoes when I was maybe 40, 42, something like that. But he says, but I did not have that awareness, balance, and flow back then. So I think we can learn as we go. Yes, never tell yourself you're too old. Start slow and keep going. He says, I do have natural musical intelligence, though, that creates music whenever I want in my head. I always thought of this as I am my own entertainer. Ha ha. Yes, you are. Good for you. Okay. Next, we have a little message from Gail. She says, thank you for this lesson. I hope I don't make an ass of myself here. I see myself in nearly every one of the inter and intrapersonal intelligence capacities. Good for you. That's how it should work. You should be able to recognize and be honest with yourself. I have this, I'm not so good at that. I'm awful at this, but man, I really shine when it comes to this and that. So yeah, that's good. And then Alexandra 1184 says, Penny, this coursework will have a huge impact. Yeah, that's the goal. A huge impact. I think that's why the ETs said, look, we want you to do this. I'm like, okay. Next, we have a comment from PH Netherlands. And PH says, the operating system of the body-mind is the chakra system. That is why high intelligence is found among natives. Nothing to do with the brain. And then she has another comment. She says, my experience is that the brain is much overrated. We have many other instruments of intelligence. The brain is just a mold that we act upon. Of course, we need to train abilities, but too much molding is not a guarantee of good results. So, PH, I'm going to say the chakra system is very important. It brings in energy. When I watch that chakra system in operation, it's taking in energies that are used by the energy body to help drive the transactions and the operations of the physical body. Okay? So yeah, the chakra system is really, really important. And when somebody gets close to death, those chakras, they almost go out. And they get slower and slower. They go from to that kind of thing. So, but I don't think we can say that it has nothing to do with the brain. The brain pretty much runs the body. And let me add a comment. When we're talking about the brain, it's not like this. This is just one lecture about the brain, okay? And the intelligences that have been recognized by Western people, Western cultures. These aren't the only kinds of intelligence that there are. There's like a dozen, but we don't value those in the West. So we don't measure those. And so in the IQ test that we do have, does it really measure intelligence, or does it measure our ability to memorize the answers? So I'm not sure that memorizing answers qualifies as intelligence. It's maybe something. But the brain is pretty important. And it's not just like somebody else adds to that and says, yes, I too find the brain overrated. And I find this kind of segmenting and segmentizing of our perception too much of a simplification, although very amusing. I did enjoy the second half of the video. The world outside is solid, capital letters, SOLID. And so are we. Breaking reality by numbers, dimensions, directions. That's like a tradition of our current culture. Yeah, it is. But it's only one aspect. As far as I'm concerned, it's just one of many ways to be able to look at the brain. Every cell in the body can do everything that the brain does. Okay? We don't develop ourselves, so we never get to that point. But there are people that are working on it. So just be aware that I'm just talking about the brain here and how it impacts perception. Other things also impact, yes. I am simplifying to a degree, but that's certainly not all that I know or could be presenting. But you got to start in kind of a clear way, simple, clear, and then you build on that. Okay, so thank you for your comments. Next we have, I think, actually this is last, M.A. Marlemper 2564 says, thank you so much, Kelly, for your teaching. Can an individual have linguistic intelligence if that person is getting messages from above? Yes. And then he goes, or she goes on. Also, spatial intelligence without logical mathematical intelligence. Yes. The thing that I think is the message of the seven intelligences is that everybody's got sort of a mixture. Some are stronger in this, others are stronger in that. But, I have like 3 or 4 of these intelligences that are, they're all to different degrees. But that's true for everybody. Some people have a whole bunch of them. They're really well developed in a lot of the intelligences, some of them, all of them. So, just be aware that you don't have to, that you're not trying to single out what is your one intelligence. That's the problem that we have in this country. And what about the intelligences that people have that we don't even recognize? That's a problem. Okay. And last comment says, heart-centered mamas. And her comment is, it's easier for me to identify what I lack instead of what I'm good at. And that's true for most of us. Yeah. It's easy. We always are looking at our faults. It's a little harder to say, I've got some of that. I do that. So just be honest with yourself. And then she says, I too wonder if aspects that are lacking can be developed and strengthened. For instance, I often lack motivation to begin a project that I really want to do, like simply cleaning out the cupboards. And if I do start a project, I often have great difficulty finishing it. Can I cultivate this quality? I'm going to say that is not something that's a physical, that's a signal that you don't have the right minerals. You don't have enough minerals. Every mineral that we take in, calcium, magnesium, potassium, phosphorus, zinc, iron, whatever, every mineral contributes to consciousness. Iron and calcium will give you the oomph to get up and actually start the project and finish it. If you don't have any calcium, you're not going to want to get off the couch, and you may not be able to. If you don't have any iron, you won't be able to persist. So that what you're talking about, that lack of motivation, that's a health issue, not so much a brain or intelligence issue. And it's been shown 100 different ways, that if you don't have the health, if you don't have the nutrition as you're developing, then you're going to suffer in terms of your IQ, your intelligence, your creativity, your resilience, your overall motivation. All of those things are part of the system, the body-mind system. So it's a good comment, heart-centered mama, because it highlights that here we are talking about consciousness and intelligence, and you're already running into what I mentioned in the very first class. Everybody runs into their body. The body has to be in pretty decent shape to do some of the work to hold the consciousness that we would love to have. Okay. And a lot of people have been shut down in terms of feeling. So learning to let yourself feel, and then having to deal with that takes some more energy and some more good health, so that you don't fall apart. It's difficult enough. It's challenging. It's exciting. It's rewarding to develop your consciousness. But it's harder if you don't have the right minerals and amino acids and vitamins. So just a heads up there. Okay. So I think that is it for our Q&A for today. Thank you. I hope this has been helpful. I'll be looking for other questions in the comments. Take care. Love you.